Views expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the station, its management, or advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what-ifs, without should-haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. As always, a big shout out to our producer, David. Hey, David, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's been a great new year so far. We were just talking before we went on how we can't believe it's already the 18th
Right.
of January.
Right. I know. It's weird.
Yeah. So I've got a perhaps an odd question for you. Have you been taking care of yourself?
I have. It's been hard because, of course, the gym is closed, but I've tried to do home workouts and try to, walk and jog here and there. But, I mean, so far so good for what the environment is right now.
Right. And it's because of our environment, a little bit of what's going on in our topic today. It's about self-care, but more specifically, self-care for the caregivers. And I think self-care is a term thrown around a lot, and most people approach self-care often from the thought of, I'm going to take to make myself better, right? And self-improvement is often mistaken for self-care. And they're similar, but they're subtly different. And I think self-care is different because it's about allowing yourself to have a nurturing experience of life right now, as opposed to when you work harder in the future. And as I think of all those who are working and teaching and caring for their families, not just parents, but, aunts, uncles, our caregivers, and all the others, that it really makes me reflect much more on self-care of those people who are taking care of everybody else. And that's where my guest comes in. Erica Schmitt is going to share her story of how she found peace and strength amidst panic and tragedy. And through this, she now guides others to discover the same resilience within themselves. Erica works with family caregivers to make space for their personal wellness despite their seemingly impossible circumstances. So with that, I'd love to welcome Erica. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you.
And you're joining us from outside of the States, correct?
Yes, I'm in Peru.
So it just shows you can do work from anywhere. She's more of a digital nomad. So this is great. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to really talk about this important topic. And so let's get to know you a little bit better. Why did you get into wellness?
Well, it all started back in high school. I started having these horrible panic attacks, and I really had no idea why I was having them or what I could even do to make them a little bit more bearable.
So tell me about your panic attacks, your panic disorder. Is it related to anxiety, or is it where did it come from?
Well, yes, panic attacks are definitely a type of anxiety disorder, but they're really tricky in that they don't necessarily have a root cause. So I can just get a panic attack out of the blue and have no idea why, but suddenly it's completely debilitating.
And I think it happens to so many more people than really either even realize it or want to admit it. So why do you get them? Is there something that triggers them? Environment, stress, lack of sleep, or what is it on your part?
Some people, yes, it could be because of all of those reasons. Like most people in their lifetime will have 1 or 2 panic attacks. But for me, it's a disorder because it can happen maybe like 4 times a year. And I'm pretty sure for me, it's genetic because my dad had panic attacks. My little brother has panic attacks. My older brother doesn't have them, but his anxiety kind of manifests in a different way. He just is a workaholic. He works 80-hour weeks, and that's how he deals with his anxiety.
So how do you overcome or cope with your panic attacks?
Well, it's been a really long road, I will say. I started with therapy because I, of course, thought, well, this is a really ridiculously big issue that I have. It's not normal. I should see a professional. So I went to a professional, and basically I kept getting released from therapy because I'm a very optimistic and happy person, and I'm clearly not depressed. Basically, I was told the only way to deal with these panic attacks was by taking a daily antidepressant. And for me, that was just like a quick no, because I don't want to be putting all of this medicine in my body daily for something that only happens once in a blue moon.
Right. So, each person is different, and what works for one person doesn't always work for another. And by no means is taking medication a bad thing, but in your case, it wasn't something that you thought would work. So what helps you?
Yeah, basically all I figured out was that I have to live a very healthy life. Like, it was a lot of trial and error. I worked really hard to manage my sleep. I tackled that. So now I get 8 hours of sleep every night. I worked through exercise. For a while, I was almost like obsessed with exercise. I've worked on my diet. For 5 years, I was a vegetarian. I've tried different supplements that are recommended for people in my situation, and I've gone really, really deep in meditation. So I've tried so many things that I probably didn't even list all of them, because I've just tried anything that I could figure out might even help me. But now I've kind of figured out a balance of what is healthy for me. But I know that if I slip up on any of those healthy habits, I'm pretty much putting myself into danger, because I might have a panic attack the next day.
Yeah. And I think like so many people, it's kind of like, this is very much oversimplification, but it's like when you buy a red car, next thing you notice so many red cars. Or when you get a certain type of vehicle or shoes, or you notice everybody with those shoes. It's the same kind of thing when it comes into your history or your background. Once you realize something or experience something, right, you start noticing it more, you start seeing it more in others. And I feel like that's one reason why you got into your wellness journey, not only for yourself personally to make sure that you were living the healthiest, best life that you could, but now you're kind of going forward to put what you've learned forward.
That's exactly true. The thing is that I've realized while I've been on this journey myself is that I've tried so many things, because the whole world is trying to tell you what is healthy. And you realize that no, not all of those habits or those healthy techniques work for everyone. Not every diet works for everyone. You have to find what works for you.
Yes. And I think that's so true. And it's like with anything, just because one thing doesn't work, right? Whether it's, I went to a therapist, I didn't like them, right? And maybe it was the therapist, much like a personal trainer, you have to click. Or if you tried, a healthy diet, maybe you tried because you tried vegan, or you tried vegetarian, or you keto, or any of the ones that are out there now. Just because one doesn't work doesn't mean that won't be something out there that's not going to work for you. And I think, a lot of times, just like in medicine, sometimes when somebody doesn't know what's wrong with a person, medically speaking, they have to do things. It's, lack of better terms, trial and error. And I think that's one thing that people need to understand in wellness and in their journey. There are so many things that are interconnected. If you're having a hard time sleeping, what could that be? There could be so many things. It could be stress related. It could be you're not eating right, or maybe you're getting too much caffeine right before bed. Maybe your sleeping environment isn't the best. So I think it's great when we can have our experiences help others, right? Not trying to push what we did or what worked for us onto somebody else, but to give them guiding principles to move forward. And I think you mentioned meditation is something that really works for you. And that truly is one of my favorite things. And I want to get more into that topic in the next segment, because I think meditation is so fascinating and it's an unbelievable tool. But before we go, Rebecca, tell listeners how they can reach you.
Oh, absolutely. My website for my business is very simple. It's Rebecca Wellness Company, Rebecca with two C's. And so if you want to email me, it's Rebecca at Rebecca Wellness Company. I love talking to new people. I love helping new people. And I even have a support group once a week that's free for meditation. If anyone who's a caregiver, it's specifically for caregivers as a safe space. So
that's awesome. And we're going to get into more of that detail coming up in just a little bit. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about meditation. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
On a tough day, our first impulse is to check out. But here's a better idea. Check in. Check in with yourself in two specific ways. First, check in with your body. Are your hands balled into fists? Is your jaw clenched? Notice any place you feel tension in your body and consciously relax. Then check in with your mind. Are you fully present to the people and activities in your immediate environment? Or is your mind a million miles away, worrying about the future, brooding about the past? If that's the case, gently bring your awareness back to the present moment. When we check in with ourselves, we can create more peace in ourselves and in our world. If you'd like to learn more about incorporating mindfulness practices into your daily life, contact me, Mary Angela McGuire at McGuireLifeCoach.com, and check out my show, Nothing But Now, Thursdays at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio.
Stuck in a roundabout of dysfunction? Learn how to speak your truth to power with host Dr. Kathy Obear. Create real change with smart tools and smart strategies. No frills, no fluff, just life-changing conversations to help get you where you want to be. Extend your reach and become an agent for real change with Kathy Obear. For more information on Kathy and her work, please visit drkathyobear.com. That's drkathyobear.com.
Learn how to lead a happier life on Miles to Go with Brittany Miles. How to lose to gain it all. Join Brittany every second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Listen as coach and healer Brittany Miles shares stories that teach you about surrender. For more information about Brittany, milestogocoaching.com.
What we've been taught and told is not all there is. Life is all about energy, and the energy you feel is real. Tune into the energy paradigm each month on TransformationTalkRadio.com with Dr. Vic. The energy paradigm is an eye-opening, mind-shifting, transformative, and earth-shattering way to live, work, and do business that will enable you to unlock your magic every day. Visit theenergyparadigm.com.
Did you know that when we talk about the Earth's ecosystems, the most important ecosystem has been left out? You. We created the ecosystem approach to recapture human potential.
Find us at theecosystemapproach.org.
Join us every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time for the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on GetRootedRadio.com. That's GetRootedRadio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to GetRootedRadio.com. I'd like to welcome back our guest, Rebecca Schmitt. Thanks again for being with us today, all the way from Peru.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So during the last segment, one thing you mentioned that works for you was meditation. And I think some people believe meditation is a little bit woo-hoo-y. I don't personally, but I think it's coming to be more recognized now as a stress reliever, more in the mainstream. And people are beginning to understand that meditation isn't about becoming a different person, a new person, or even a better person. It's about training in awareness and getting a healthy sense of perspective. So when did you start getting into meditation?
Yeah, meditation came for me really right at the moment that I was dealing with the death of my father. He passed away at home quickly and unexpectedly from skin cancer. And 2 weeks later, I was shipping myself off across the ocean to Denmark to study for the next 4 months. And I knew that I needed something to ground me. And for me, the church was not that place. So meditation.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry for your loss. I can completely understand that. My father also passed on quite quickly after a freak accident. And I know meditation was really a saving grace for me. Something that I didn't focus on as much as I should. And I know for me, not getting my stress under control had caused me a lot of health issues. To the point where I actually had a mini stroke. So I totally get it. And meditation does wonders. And I think it's very spiritual in nature. At least for me personally, it is. And I know there's many types of meditation. And what kind of meditation do you do? What is the one that really calls to you the most?
It's funny that you ask me that, because at the beginning you mentioned that a lot of people think of meditation as like woo-woo, but my meditation is very much grounded in like scientific experience, like personally. Like I practice Mahasi Sayadaw meditation, which is a kind of insight or mindfulness meditation that has its roots in Buddhism. But the whole idea of my specific type of meditation is just studying your mind as a third-person observer. So this practice is actually fairly new, even. It was created in the 1960s in the New Burmese school.
And I think I love what you said, is being grounded. And I know my business is Balance Symmetry. It's about being rooted, right? Just like Get Rooted Radio. It's that grounding effect, to be mindful of your feelings and thoughts. And I think sometimes people think meditation is turning off your brain. And don't do that, people. If your brain isn't working, it probably means you're dead. And that's not a good thing. But when really you're not trying to turn off your thoughts or feelings, you're learning to observe them without judgment. And eventually you may start to better understand them as well. And I think sometimes people lose that thought or lose that understanding about meditation. So tell me, because this is a newer meditation, what's different about this style of meditation?
Yeah, I really like that you put it that way, of not turning off your brain, because this is something that I talk to my meditators a lot when I teach meditation. The style of meditation that I use is using mainly the technique of noting. A lot of people understand already what this is. It's when you have an experience, you give it a name, and you just watch that experience. But my particular meditation really takes that idea of noting to an extreme. So you're going to be noting the rising and falling of your breath. You're going to be noting every physical experience that you have, emotional experience, mental experience, like thoughts and everything. So when you give a name to every experience, you watch it as a third-party observer. So you're not trying to stop thinking at all. When you have a thought, you say to yourself, thinking, and you put the attention on the experience of the thought instead of the content. So you're not trying to stop thinking. And while you put your attention on the experience, suddenly the content of the thought is not important and it starts to dissipate. And then you can move back to your breath. So while you're doing all of these things, you're noting your thinking, you're noting hearing, you're noting pain in your legs, you're noting every experience that you have while you're trying to flip between the rising and falling of your breath. And then as you get more experienced in this meditation, you start adding points in your body and do a body mapping exercise with all of that included.
So for people who are maybe new to something like this, it sounds like that's a lot of things to focus on, almost complicated. Why is that, and what is the benefit of doing it in this way?
Well, for one, you don't get so caught up in all of that stuff that distracts you throughout the day. Like, we are all very, very caught up in our thoughts throughout the day. Like, we end up in these cyclical processes where we're thinking about the same thing over and over and over again just to get to the same experience, or the same conclusion, rather. And when you are focusing on so many things, you are just putting yourself in touch with true reality, and you can't get all of those judgments mixed in. There's no room for ego. There's no room for all of those things that normally we get mixed up in. So the cyclical thoughts that bring you in a downward spiral of anxiety, for example, you can now manage them better because you start to see all of the processes that happen that lead up to that downward spiral.
Yeah, and I would think, there are times when I'm meditating, all of a sudden I'm like, wait, did I put the clothes in the dryer? Oh, wait, did I do this? So it's when you can start focusing on something else, those sort of to-do lists in the back of your mind, or how much time do I have left, or have I been doing this for too long, or is the dog getting into something? I think it definitely does help to eliminate those outside forces.
Yeah, it's almost like that need that we all have to be constantly stimulated.
Yes.
A lot yeah, I'm sure
the instant gratification.
Yeah, and it's almost, in a way, it manages that because you are constantly stimulated. You start to realize that, wow, there is a lot going around in my brain, in my body, outside of my body. Who has time for all of those other things?
So, I mean, being able to focus on this, being able to kind of pinpoint those thoughts and giving them a name, I can imagine that it's been very helpful with all the experiences that you have and some of your tragedies that is going on, as well as your panic disorder.
Yeah, absolutely. I will probably always have panic disorder, I will say, but it's way better managed. And I say that I will probably always have it because I know a monk that has panic disorder as well. And he's like, yeah, it's never going away, but it won't run your life. It won't run my life. And I can start catching the bigger processes in my head that lead to those downward spirals, so that suddenly, like, okay, maybe I will have a panic attack, but this time I won't dissociate. Or maybe I won't be so afraid of my panic attack because I know that as quickly as it comes, it's going to end, and I can just sit with it and observe it. And just like I observe every other uncomfortable feeling in my meditation, I can observe that uncomfortable experience of my panic.
If you've ever listened to the show before, folks, you've heard me say, feel all the feels, right? You got to feel them, got to sit with them, acknowledge them, and then, you can then start moving forward. So how would somebody, if they're brand new and they've heard about meditation, they've never tried it, they don't know where to start, what would you recommend starting with meditation?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I do like guided meditations to an extent. Guided meditations are wonderful in that you don't have to put the work in. You can just sit still and be relaxed and start to learn what it is you're supposed to do when you meditate. So I offer a couple guided meditations, like there's one on my YouTube, and that's what I do with my group on Fridays. But I also really encourage people to start meditating for like 5 minutes. And 5 minutes when you're sitting with yourself and all of that stuff that's going on with yourself will go by way slower than you think it'll go. And the thing is that when you're just starting to meditate, you have to be really, really kind to yourself. You have to be accepting, like sit wherever you want. Don't try to make yourself sit the perfect Buddhist way. You don't have to sit cross-legged. You could literally lay down in your bed and decide you're going to sit with yourself. And I always start my meditations telling people to have their eyes open and just think about everything that's been going through their mind through the day, so that way they can start to clear what's going on.
Right. And I think there's no right or wrong way, right? There's going to be something that's going to work for somebody. And I mean, there are times where I can be very formal in my meditation, and there are times where I'm really informal. I know for me, I had this underlying rage last week. I don't know what it was, but I was not a nice person last week. And I sat just for 2 minutes just to breathe, just to truly meditate, because that 2 minutes was better than nothing. And it helped. And I think people need to start where they are. They can learn, they can go forward and find what type of meditation is going to work best for them. And we have talked a lot about your experiences, and I wanted people to get to know you a little bit more, because you've got some great tools, and it really has led you to where you are today, and your why, your purpose to help caregivers achieve wellness. And we're going to talk about that during the next segment. So folks, I haven't lost sight of what we are talking about today. I just wanted you to get a little bit get to know Rebecca a little bit more, because her experiences truly did lead her to her passion and what she is doing with caregiver wellness. So Rebecca, tell folks how they can reach you again.
Yeah, you can send me an email at my business email, Rebecca with 2 C's at RebeccaWellnessCompany.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss caregiver wellness. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. I am Terry J. Walker with the I Am Power Hour, and here is your soul-stretching success tip of the day. 2 very important and life-changing words. I am. I have an alphabet game I wanted to share with you today. Start with the letter A and come up with as many positive words as you can think of, and place those affirmative I am words before them. For example, I am abundant. Move to the letter B and do the same thing. I am beautiful, and so on. This requires you to actually focus on coming up with positive words and learn to state your affirmations with conviction, validation, and focus. Begin to say them numerous times a day. Learn to say them with feeling and belief, and you will begin to see your confidence, your focus, and your self-worth evolve. Hope you have a beautiful, successful day, and I'll see you next time.
Are you ready to put down that drink or drug for good? Are you struggling to maintain your recovery from addictive behaviors? Do you need help with a family member or loved one who's in early recovery or battling addiction? Get the help and guidance you need by arranging a recovery recharged phone session with me, Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx, certified life and recovery coach. Call 1-800-889-1757. Make an appointment today or go to my website, pushybroadfromthebronx.com, and click on the link that says Recovery Recharged. Don't wait. Get the help you need today. This is Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx on Transformation
Are you ready to accelerate your wealth and success? Join Ahana and Daniel from Rise and Be Rich with Cornelia Stephanie on the Millionaire Imprint for Women on Transformation Talk Radio every 3rd Friday, 1 p.m. PST. Step out of lack and into your power of creation. Build and grow your wealth. Create prosperous businesses that make a difference. Visit ahanalara.com/RBR show.
Are you trying to lose weight but feel guilty for eating your favorite foods? Feeling deprived and resentful makes for results that aren't sustainable. Join Adrienne Craig every second and fourth Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com for her show Master Your Mindset for a Weight Loss Breakthrough. Learn to love the journey and watch yourself succeed. For more information about Adrienne or to work with her personally, visit lifecanyon.com.
We are back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit GetRootedRadio.com to listen to a replay of this episode or any other episodes. Sign up for helpful tips and learn about upcoming events. That's GetRootedRadio.com. Welcome back to our guest, Rebecca Schmitt, where we are talking about caregiver wellness. And just like so many of us, our experiences lead us to a better understanding of those around us, to wanting to use the things we have used to help ourselves and in turn help others. And that's what Rebecca is doing with her wellness company. And what I want to kind of ask Rebecca is, what interests you about working with caregivers?
Yeah, I've actually been a caregiver twice, technically, because my dad had cancer, and when he passed away 3 years later, my mom had cancer. And I was actually living 7 hours away from my mom while she was getting treatment. And I had to go back and forth any weekend that I could between work. But I remember one of the big experiences I had when my dad passed away was a lot of doubt and self-criticism for, why am I feeling so bad? Since I'm not the one who's sick, like, why is this so horrible? Why do I feel like this? And even like when my mom was sick, it was like always this feeling, I'm not doing enough. Like, and just this awful feeling in the pit of my stomach, even though I was doing everything I could. And I didn't even know like there was a name for people like me. I didn't even know like where I belonged or who else was going through the similar things that I was going through, because I thought caregiver only applied to nurses and doctors. I had no idea it would apply to someone at home with their family like me.
Yeah, and I think that's what many times people forget. I mean, some people, this is their full-time job, but also they work a whole nother job, or they have a whole other family to take care of. And I mean, so many individuals in my family were caregivers for my mom in her last few years of her life. My mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and truly was only expected to live maybe 6 to 12 months. And it was about 3-4 months after, well, actually 6 months after her diagnosis, that my father had a freak accident, and he ended up passing away about 3 weeks after. And, you know, it was a shock. And we all knew, well, my mom still needed to be taken care of. She was still getting chemo treatments, and she was, you know, really needed to be looked after. And none of us wanted to have to put her into a assisted living or anything like that. So it's the caregiver or the caretaker, you know, right, refers to anyone who provides care for another person. And there's so many different types of caregivers, and they help relieve burdens and support individuals and their families. And I think they often forget that they need it. I mean, other people forget that they need it, right? Oh, they're used to it. That's their quote unquote job. But many people fall into it not because it's what they wanted to go into, but by a sense of duty or obligation. They want to help, they want to do it, but they forget that they need to be taken care of too. And others forget that they need a little extra help. And I would wonder, you know, what is one of the hardest things that you think caregivers are going through with your experience with your clients?
Yeah, well, like a lot of them have a lot of physical demands and chores. You know, a lot of them complain. Like, I once asked one of my clients, I was like, what are you doing for exercise? Because I was genuinely curious, like if they were getting enough exercise in their day for themselves. And she says, like, yeah, I'm lifting my mom up and down like a whole lot. My arms are very strong. But aside from that, a lot of these caregivers, like aside from all of that physical demand that they have to put up with, they have to quit their jobs in order to take care of their loved ones full time. And they don't necessarily plan for this in their life. It's like you say, it's like a surprise. And suddenly their whole life gets uprooted. They might even have kids to take care of, and they don't get a lot of sleep because whoever they're taking care of might be waking up in the middle of the night with problems, and they're the one who has to take care of them. So a lot of these people are also suffering psychologically. Like they just have so much empathy and love for the people they take care of. Like I can see it in the people that I'm working with. Like they are really, really, truly beautiful people. But it's so easy for them to think I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. And then suddenly, like, what's left for them?
Yeah, I mean, they get that fatigue, and it's not just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's, spiritual, it's everything that's interconnected. So do they go through like a burnout? Are you seeing that in your clients?
Yeah, like they're definitely experiencing what I imagine to be burnout or like compassion fatigue. But what is so crazy to me is that, like I've been discussing in my wellness classes, the World Health Organization recently made an official definition of burnout, and it's very, very specific to energy depletion related to one's job. And yeah, job is the key word.
Yeah, and so that's really interesting. I mean, energy depletion can be so much, and it's when some of these individuals, it's their job. I know many people think being a mom is a job, which it is. I'm totally not saying it's not, because trust me, that was my most important job ever, even if I was working full time. But it's, as you said, the World Health Organization, it's affixing it to something that you might be getting quote unquote reimbursement for, right? So does that mean that the caregivers don't count? Like that their burnout isn't because it's not a job related burnout?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost like one of those gray areas. Like there's so many people that will tell you motherhood is a job, and other people will say no because you're not you can get paid to be a caregiver, like through Medicaid from the person that you're caring for, but that's not always the case. And it's almost, I would say it's never enough, because it's so costly, both physically and financially, to take care of your loved one. The most crazy thing is that there are actually studies for burnout. These studies are always related to nurses and medical professionals, but they never talk about the family caregivers. And the family caregivers are the ones that didn't choose to be in this circumstance. Like it's a totally different thing when you're getting paid to run, like to have an occupation, versus this fell into my lap and I've got to do it because this is who I love. I'm not going to put them in a home. But they're putting in more hours. They're not getting sleep. They're not getting the support they need. And it's worse.
Right. No, and I mean, it can lead to so much more, right? Because when you're not expecting to be put into this situation, you feel, the obligation and the devotion to do it, but it can also cause resentment. Why aren't other family members helping, or resentment on, why can I not get reimbursed? And I mean, in so many states, Medicaid varies from state to state. And having worked in that industry, it's also very specific on what is the physical ailment. If you've got somebody that you're caregiving for who might be mentally, I know in the state of Wisconsin, it doesn't cover behavioral health, mental health sort of caregiving, right? They have to have a physical ailment. What are their ADLs? What do they need assistance with? And so getting that additional payment, especially if they're not on Medicaid. If they're not on Medicaid, then they have maybe Medicare or private insurance because they're covered under a spouse. What happens then, right? And it's so much, and it's put so much stress on that caregiver on what am I going to do financially? I'm not taking care of maybe my own home if they're not actually living with the individual. And how does that environment affect so many other parts of their life? And I think we forget how much support those individuals need. I mean, I know personally, I never realized it until I saw it firsthand. And I'm curious, is at least from where your standpoint is, because I don't work with some individuals I may work with might be caregivers, but that's not my all my focus. So how many people are actually in the caregiving situation that you're describing? Are they in the minority?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that, because really I feel the same way, that it's almost like a taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it, because honestly, it's not a very pretty truth. When you're going through these things in your home, you don't really want to tell your friends about the poop that you're cleaning up from your parents, or really what's truly going on. And the crazy thing is that I read a study is that 29% of the U.S. population is currently taking care of an aging or a sick family member or friend. That's a third of the country. That is so large of a population that it's so crazy to me that it's not a bigger conversation.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be, and I'm hoping, I mean, there are many things that can come out of this pandemic, and I'm hoping not just for healthcare workers, but that our caregivers, that we can really shine a bigger light on this, right? Because like I've said, I've seen it firsthand that it can be very hard on families when you have children or grandchildren, nieces, nephews, etc., looking after another family member. When the caregiver is not getting support they need, it's hard. It causes the stress, the loss of sleep, the poor eating habits, which then, of course, causes so many more physical, mental, and emotional issues. It's all interconnected. And what we need to do is, how can we get that conversation going so caregivers know? Raise your hand. Tell people you need support. How do you talk about that? And I really want to get into that next segment more on really caregiver tools and what your business offers. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up the episode with just that, caregiver tools and Rebecca's Wellness Company. So stay tuned. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Laura Goldstein, and here's a Coffee with the Universe tip. Let me ask you, how do you start your day? Do you wake up anxious and on edge, already feeling the pressure of your giant to-do list? Or do you wake up feeling calm, collected, and excited to start your day? Here's the little secret. How you start your day sets the tone and foundation for the rest of your day. A stressed morning creates a stressed, just reacting to everything day. A calm and connected to self morning leads to aligned and confident choices that help you reach your goals. So take a good look at your morning routine. What can you do to set up a healthy foundation for your day? To get some ideas and a sneak peek into my own Coffee with the Universe morning routine, go to www.coffeewiththeuniverse.net.
Do you know how powerful your thoughts and beliefs are in determining your experience of your life? Is it really true that simply by changing some of the words you use in your day-to-day language, that you can change your life? I'm Megan Edge. Join me on Playing on the Edge, Radical Change with Ease, with my co-host Dr. Pat on Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to seeing you there.
To find out more about Megan Edge, visit her website at meganedge.ca.
Are you ready to shift your current beliefs about death? From debilitating pain and loss? Follow Angie Corbett Kuiper as she shares that through choice, present moment awareness, and keeping an open mind. Anything is possible, even in death. Tune in to Beyond Proof Radio with Angie, redefining death and loss, every first Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more, visit BeyondProof.com.
Are you ready for a holistic healing revolution? Subscribe to Burn Bright Today podcast with Jennifer Marcinelli on Transformation Talk Radio. Healing is about self-care and seeking help when you need it. The best investment you can make is in yourself and your body, mind, and spirit. One step at a time, you can burn bright and live a life you dream. For more information on how to heal from home, visit burnbrighttoday.com.
The knowledge book, currently studied in 39 countries and 15 languages around the world, accelerates our evolution, takes us out of depression, offers universal truths, protects us, and makes us stronger, both spiritually and physically. So if you are interested in the Knowledge Book, visit usa.theknowledgebook.net and tune in to the Knowledge Book Radio with Marge Potasic on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events. That's getrootedradio.com. We welcome back my guest, Rebecca Schmitt. Thanks again for being with us today.
Thank you.
So, Rebecca, you have a business named Rebecca Wellness Company. How can people reach you to find out more?
Yeah, just send me an email is the absolute best way to get in touch with me. Since I'm in a foreign country, I would love to get a text from you, but it's just so much more reliable that I'll get back to you by email. Rebecca@RebeccaWellnessCompany.com.
Wonderful. So, what are you doing with caregiver wellness these days? What tools are you offering to help with the support that they need?
All of my tools are virtual, partly because of where I am, but also partly in an effort to understand where the caregivers are coming from. They don't have a lot of free time on their hands, and they're mostly stuck in their houses, especially in the pandemic, trying to take care of their loved ones. So I have a free meditation and support group for family caregivers once a week. So in that group, we get together, we chat, we make friends, and we have a guided meditation. And then I'm putting together a variety of other wellness coaching programs to guide these people through their own wellness journeys. Like we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, it's kind of like, how do you find your way through the weeds of your own journey? Because everyone's journey is different.
Yeah, and that sounds like a very powerful skill, that you're teaching in this group. So why do you offer it for free?
Yeah, the meditation is for free, and that I see it as a basic human right. It's what I've been taught by my meditation teachers. I've been really integrated in my Buddhism practice for so long that it's always been taught to me that everyone who wants to learn meditation deserves to have access to it. It's a tool. It's just one of those things that you have such an advantage in your life if you know how to use it. And it's managing your own brain, right? Like why should one person be allowed to manage their own brain and the other people no?
Right. So in your meditation group, which again is for caregivers, right? It's what sort of support do you offer? Give folks an example of what the meditation group may consist of.
Yeah. So every now and then I'll bring a topic to my group. Like sometimes I'll bring a really interesting article that is related to caregiving or to self-care, but I try to encourage the people in my group to bring to the group like any kind of circumstance that they're going through so that they can really chat with each other and relate to each other. So the first 10, 15 minutes of our group is just chatting with the other members. We're on a live Zoom call with video. So making friends. Then I do a 10-minute meditation, a guided meditation. I tell everyone to turn off their video and their microphone, get in their own space. Then we open up the video again afterwards. And usually we're a lot more mellow, a lot more relaxed. And the conversation might take another turn when we're in a different frame of mind. And even though I say the support group is a half an hour, because like that's where you get the bulk of what's happening and people can figure out how to fit that into their schedule. The next half hour I leave open in case people are really having a great conversation, and I just like let it happen, because I don't really like, who am I to stop this conversation, this facilitation of such great friendship.
And I think that's a big bonus right there is the support group, right? And if you really think about any sort of support group, it's people under common stress, duress, situations, leaning on one another to find that support. And I think that tool right there shows so much, right? It's something where people don't realize they need. It's like talking to a good friend. And I think, and I would imagine, I don't know this, of course, for a fact, but I would imagine a lot of these people consider one another friends. That's their support system.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I had one person who came to the meditation the last week, and she was just really, really distressed by her current situation. And there was a lot going on in her life, revolving around her caregiving. And she made space to come to the caregiving support group. And I was honestly very honored, because she chose our meditation group as her safe space, and she made time specifically just for that, so that she could get the support from those people in our group.
And I think that's a wonderful tool that you offer up. And again, that is on Friday evenings. Was it 7 Eastern?
Yeah, 7:00 Eastern.
And how can people get to that? Is it on your website? Is it on?
Yeah, it's on my website.
Okay.
But you can always just email me. I'm really like active on my email. So if you want to get like the exact link, it's so much easier to just send me an email and I'll send you a link. That way you don't have to worry about whatever hyperlink. And
yeah, no, completely understand. So tell us about your other offerings. Why would a person sign up? What sort of need might they have, or lead them to going towards some of your other programs? Tell us about those a little bit.
Yeah, I know that people are getting a lot of wonderful support from the meditation group. Once you want to take another step further in your self-care, you know that you need to start getting a little bit more specialized direction. So in my paid programs, the coaching, that's like a lot more thought-provoking and goal-oriented. Like in the meditation groups, I kind of leave it really open-ended and relaxed, and we're just chatting. But in the coaching, we have a goal to reach at the end of the coaching. And usually the goal is decided within the groups by what's going on in your life. What do you want to achieve by the end of this call? And so we start finding what are the blocks that people are facing in their lives, and how can we get over and past those obstacles and shift your mindset so that you can actually accomplish something by the end of just an hour. So it's just a lot more successful, or I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, it's in depth and personalized, right? It's very person centric, and I think it kind of shows what you want people to take away from your programs, right? What is the benefits of those programs?
Yeah, and it's almost like I'm kind of guiding people in baby steps. Like you start with meditation because you start with that. How do you become in touch with your own personal awareness? How do you get to know your mind and your body? And then when we start doing the coaching, it's like, how can I guide you to understand your own wellness journey? Because there's so many people, like I've said at the beginning of our podcast, there's so many people in the world trying to tell you what's the right way to wellness. So I want the idea of wellness to be a bit more open-ended, so that we can really turn it on its head and say, let's become aware of ourselves. Let's become aware of what we want in our lives and what is healthy for us, so that we can discover our own path along the way to wellness.
And I agree. And I don't think you could have said it any better. I believe it's a mistake that so many make, assuming that a technique is a one size fits all. And as a coach, I'm not here to solve your problems, rather guide you, right? To hold you accountable and give you the tools you need to make the changes that are right for you. And we both have said it, what may work for one person may not work for another. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us today. It has been a great pleasure. And I hope this is just the start of a conversation on getting more awareness on caregiver wellness. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any of today's episode or you want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Before I sign off, remember to ask yourself, am I living a rooted life? One that is balanced mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? If the answer is no, take time to think about what you need to do, then take action to make that answer a yes. One way to take action to set up your free Empower Hour call with me. No charge, no obligations. Go to getrootedradio.com to find out how I can help you take action. And if you're ready to live, love, and let go, join me for my signature 12-week group coaching series, The Rooted Life. This series will assist you in achieving your goals and moving forward by letting go of the things that no longer serve you, learning to love yourself and others fully, and living life to its fullest. Go to getrootedradio.com to learn more. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing day. And I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you have missed any part of this hit show. And tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.